There's over 10,000 kilometres on the odometer of this Genesis G70 3.3 Turbo, and we've had the car now for a little under 6 months. What we're going to do today is recap on some of the questions we asked and give you an in-depth review before we send it home. As a recap, our Genesis G70 3.3 Turbo is priced from $72,450 before on-roads. The only option at this grade is an opening panoramic sunroof for $2,500, which our car has. Metallic and premium paints are free, and our car is finished in Santiago Silver, in case you're wondering. One thing we don't get the opportunity to speak much about at CarAdvice are topics like paint quality. We've had this G70 for about 6 months now, so we've got every right to comment on the topic. Now, it's lived with a bunch of custodians in the office. Some of those care about this car more than others, so it hasn't had an easy life. But there are no stone chips on the front, there's little to no marring and no swirl marks either. That goes to show you that this paint finish is nice and tough, which is just what you need in Australian conditions. Standard inclusions inside include quilted leather trim and a 9-speaker stereo, whereas on the outside, shadow chrome accents and Brembo performance brakes. Now onto the interior, and the G70 has been a pleasure to live with. Under the armrest there's great storage, there's a deep set of cup holders up front, wireless charger, little cubby here, and a good bottle holder in the door. However, I did mention that the infotainment did feel a bit low rent. Having lived with the car now, look, it has its positives. The buttons are great, easy to use, but the screen does lack resolution, which is a bit of a shame. We drive a lot of vehicles here at CarAdvice, and we've come to notice that some cars wear differently to others. Our last Hyundai Veloster showed some wear on the seats. This Genesis has been great. Another area it excelled in too is in terms of lower trims. Normally you get a lot of kick marks and scuffs all over the doors. This car shows none. It shows you that the Genesis has a marked improvement in quality over a regular Hyundai. As a family car slash grand tourer, the G70 needs to be comfortable, and we've done a lot of long trips in this car. The seats themselves are great, well supportive, well bolstered. This armrest is nice and high for your elbows. You've got a matching one on this side too, which makes it great to get behind the wheel on a long road trip. In terms of vehicle controls or system controls, everything is laid out logically. For your infotainment on your left and all your cruise control and trip computer on your right. Another nice touch too is this car has dedicated switches for all the driver assist systems, be it blind spot monitoring, lane keeping assist and the like. So if those things annoy you or they bother you in certain conditions, you can turn them off in one touch. As I mentioned at the start of this loan, rear legroom and rear passenger space is a bit tight. This is my driving position, and as you can see, I've got no knee room and no foot room. Nothing has changed there, I haven't got any shorter. What I have learned to do, however, is accommodate others in the second row. I can sometimes sit a bit more forward if I need to give some room in the back, which I'll show you now. As you can see, with my new selfless front driving position, I've got about 5 centimeters of knee room and great foot room as well. We've been putting baby seats in these cars, sometimes 2 across. It's been relatively easy to use. The hip point is a bit low, so you lower your kids in, but there's enough space for them here in general. Nice touches like these hooks here too. Going to a wedding, wearing a suit, you can chuck it up there so it doesn't get creased. Cup holders here as well as a 60/40 rear bench, but there's no ski flap behind the armrest. You do get a set of air vents and a USB port as well. In terms of overall habitability and comfort, the seat bench is quite deep and there's great thigh support underneath, which is awesome. And you've got this big glass window too, which helps to let light in, despite the roof being a little bit low. Overall, you could easily live with this G70 in lieu of a medium SUV as your new family car. Sure, it has its compromises, a low hip point and a squashy rear cabin, but you quickly forget about them when you realise you're driving a performance rear-wheel drive sedan. In terms of boot space, let's recap on the most important things first. There's about 330 litres in there, which is about 30% less than the German alternatives. However, it is still quite usable. It's nice and wide here, which means a stroller will go in, but this narrow aperture makes it hard to load the back. You sort of have to stretch in and reach out the back of the boot. Underneath the boot floor, we've got a space saver spare. And there are a couple of nice touches too, like these covers on the hinges, a very German warning triangle, and a first aid kit. But the most courteous part of all is the emergency assistance pack, which I'll show you now. In here, we've got a bit of everything. Let's just say you're changing a tyre in your suit and you want to keep clean. There's gloves, waterless hand wash, a poncho, a towel to wipe yourself down, even a mat to lay on as you change your tyre. How good's that? CarAdvice has already had the chance to experience the latest and greatest from Genesis, which includes their new large SUV, the GV80, and their large sedan, the G80. Some of that new interior tech is going to filter down to the new model, and we look forward to driving that soon. In terms of driveline, there's a 272 kilowatt twin turbo V6 engine, 8-speed auto, and torque sensing limited slip differential. Behind the wheel, the Genesis is a real treat to drive. Being a sedan, its roof is low compared to a medium SUV, so it's got a great advantage there. The powertrain, 272 kilowatt twin turbo V6, is excellent. Underneath the pedal, it's got heaps of torque. I'll just give you an example now. Come out of a corner, give it a bit of a bootful. It's immediate, it's responsive, sounds good too. You don't get any of that in a medium SUV. Another thing about this car is the way it rides. It has adaptive dampers, which means you can change them from sport, where it's firm, to normal, where it's not. Generally, we've lived in normal mode and it's been great on everyday Sydney roads. Bump absorption is great, the ride quality is excellent. It's got a nice tautness about it too, so if you do throw it around, it stays relatively flat, which is good from a driving engagement point of view. On the topic of the engine, we'll assess the fuel economy now because our trip computer hasn't been reset in a while. 9.6 litres per 100, that's actually under the official claim of 10.2. Goes to show you that a big thirsty V6 is not actually a big thirsty V6 all of the time. The 8-speed transmission in this car is a great partner to that V6 twin turbo. Being a torque converter equipped item, it's nice and smooth, it doesn't lurch or have any bad tendencies, it's just a good transmission all around. One thing it doesn't do too good at, however, is downshifts. It takes a little bit of time if you want to get stuck in behind the wheel, but on the upshifts, it's nice and crisp. Considering the balance of things, that's a thumbs up regarding the transmission. In terms of taking this car long distances, it's a great partner for that. It doesn't feel too fatiguing, giving it a great ride quality and good visibility. The seat is quite comfortable too. Bolstering is great. There's electric lumbar support on the driver's side, which helps your back on those long trips. All of the Sydney CarAdvice team got a drive of the G70 over the course of the loan. Here's what they had to say.
Whenever anyone in the office had to do a big drive, there was always a rush for the keys to this car. It really eats up the country Ks. I wasn't a fan of some of the Hyundai parts in the cabin, but you can't deny how comfortable this car is to drive. While the chassis shares its DNA with the Kia Stinger, the Genesis G70 just feels a lot better tied down. And this car is seriously quick, a repeatable 0 to 100 time of 5.1 seconds. That's V8 Commodore XR6 Turbo Falcon speed, matched with really good brakes and strong cornering grip.
Although you might not think it initially, this G70 is actually kind of a cool alternative to Australia's favourite family car, the medium-sized SUV. When I had this thing for an extended period of time, in went the baby seats, in went all the gear in the boot, and we had 2 parents up front here, and the amount of space on offer is actually quite good. And when I was done with it, had to hand it back to Justin, and I have to say I was a little bit sad because this is a really enjoyable car to drive. Pulled the car seats out, picked up all the bickies and old chuppa chups and that sort of thing out of the carpet, gave it a wash and a vacuum. The interior came up quite nicely, and that's a good thing to see because it's not going to get worn out too quickly if you are using it like that. And it's proven itself to be a real dark horse in terms of just performance and livability. Big turbo V6 there, lots of power, rear wheel drive, rides well, handles well, but it's also practical, so I give this car a massive thumbs up.
Who would have thought that Hyundai, or Genesis more specifically in this case, would have delivered this kind of car for the Australian market? And by this kind of car, I mean a rear-wheel drive performance sedan. This is a fantastic car to drive. It's got plenty of power. The other guys have spoken about the practicality of this vehicle and how it behaves, but this is a proper rear-wheel drive performance sedan. It's fast, it's capable, it handles really well, it feels solid on the road, and it feels reassuring when you wind the wick up a little bit, and quite simply, it's particularly enjoyable to drive. We need more cars like this. I know everybody rushes off to buy SUVs, and that doesn't show any signs of slowing down, but this is a fantastic car in a segment that Australians should still be taking a pretty close look at. It's a good thing, and let's hope Genesis keeps building cars exactly like this.
The only casualty we had with the car over the loan was a small piece of under tray which came loose. It looks like a small clip is the culprit, which isn't a huge deal. I'm really going to miss this G70 when we return the keys. The longer you spend with this car, the more its bad qualities start to diminish versus an SUV. That low second row and small boot, you just forget about them when you start to enjoy that rear-wheel drive turbocharged nature that it has. There's a new one of these around the corner, so if you manage to get your partner into a dealership, it's going to be the salesperson that comes off second best, as I reckon you'll get a ripper deal. Make sure you like this video, it really does help us. Click the subscribe icon and the bell icon too to stay in the loop with everything at CarAdvice.